Congressman Matt Gaetz. And
A subcommittee will be among those at that hearing. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
So let's just, for the viewers at home who may not be as familiar with this, why did this newly formed subcommittee on the weaponization of government, how did it come about?
Well, we're building on the work of Special Counsel Durham, and it came about because we became increasingly aware of political capture, victimizing the world's premier law enforcement entity, and that political capture resulted in groups of Americans being targeted that never should have been targeted. They include folks who showed up to school board meetings. They include traditional Catholics. They even include people who were in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, but committed no crime, and yet they found themselves in the crosshairs of FBI investigations. These whistleblowers, when they pointed these matters out, then faced unspeakable retaliation, unable to get other employment, unable to get their records, and at times subjected to abject cruelty at the hands of the FBI to ruin their lives. I fear that the FBI is trying to make an example out of people who bravely stepped forward to say, hey, we shouldn't be targeting Americans with a lack of predicate based on politics and ideology.
Well, you talk about certain people who were targeted, whether it was based on their opinion or their faith. But how do you determine whether something is truly weaponization or a conspiracy theory, like some Democrats are accusing you of?
So we're going to hear evidence about how in domestic violent extremism cases, there was stat padding, where agents were told to open more cases than was proper or necessary so that FBI leadership could come to Congress and really escalate the threat of domestic violent extremism beyond the reality that agents were seeing on the ground. That affects allocation of resources that could lead to more perpetration of crime. And so that is something that we're looking at for legislative reforms. But like when Catholics are targeted, when you've got the FBI field office in Richmond writing memos that they actually want to place sources, confidential human informants, inside of Catholic congregations as a lead up to the 2024 election explicitly, that strikes us as not really law enforcement so much as weaponization.
Let's talk about those inflated numbers that actually Tom approached in his report, but you also just mentioned there. In terms of the domestic violent extremism that the FBI was investigating, had you been hearing that the threat is not what it might appear to be?
Well, when we heard whistleblowers come forward and say that volume of cases was padded and inflated in order to justify resources that might have better been spent looking at foreign terrorist organizations. But a lot of these task forces that were created after 9/11 have now been turned inward, and they're using personnel and resources and authorities to go after Americans, not terrorist threats abroad. We believe that that's been inflated. We believe that the stats used to justify some of those resource allocation decisions emerge from really improper practices. And it's not for nothing. It's for politics. It's for the sake of trying to scare people into thinking that their neighbors are somehow dangerous, when in many cases, the folks who show up to school board meetings, the folks who worship at Catholic congregations, and folks who just happen to be in Washington, D.C. on January 6th probably ought not be in the crosshairs of federal law enforcement.
Well, you mentioned Special Counsel Durham's report as well, and how, of course, he said that there were grievous missteps within the FBI's 2016 investigation into former President Trump. In terms of what you're doing now, this is all intentional? This is all connected?
Well, we're building on that work because the Durham Report has no fiat unto itself. It's not self-affecting. Lawmakers have to pick up that report and question what legislative reforms, what oversight activity would have to happen so that this never happens again. But the very themes of the Durham Report, specifically doing investigations to reinforce the bias of the FBI, well, that's not just something that's in the rearview mirror. We see that through the windshield each and every day. This is happening right now, where you're seeing field offices weaponized, where you're seeing the Washington field office in particular put pressure on people in Kansas and in Boston and all over the country to do things that really those entities are uncomfortable with. And they're uncomfortable for good reason, when what the folks in Washington are asking for violates people's constitutional rights without predicate and probable cause, concepts that we've become quite familiar with in American jurisprudence.
Can you give us a couple of examples of what would change based on those findings and who would be held accountable?
Yeah, I think that we need stronger reporting around some of these cases. I think that there are some authorities, particularly the FISA authorities, to engage in surveillance that we are likely to curtail when U.S. persons are caught up in them. And when it comes to holding personnel accountable, I think Director Christopher Wray at the FBI has a lot to answer for. He has failed to clean up the mess at the FBI. Time and again, the Inspector General has put out reports that they are violating their authorities. They are failing to comply with their own procedures on how they build cases and put them together. And at some point, you've got to chop the head off the snake and get new leadership at the FBI. And the revelations we learned today may be one step toward that ultimate end.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.